G'day there, once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more Modern Warfare content. So guys, Season 1 is well and truly underway, and I know that some of you are going to be getting your teeth sunk right into the new content, namely so, the new weapons. Today we're going to be having a chat about this big boy, the Holger-26, which is a brand new LMG that is available in this new Battle Pass on both the free and premium progression lines. Now, it's called the Holger-26, but let's be 100% honest with ourselves here. This is definitely the MG36, an LMG variant of the old classic G36C, where we got to use in Modern Warfare 1. Now, much like the video we did on the FAL, I don't have any stats here because, well, I haven't had a chance to do any testing yet, but you guys did leave some awesome suggestions in that last video's comment section as to what I can do to test out some stats that I look forward to putting into action soon, so I appreciate that, guys. Anyway, the Holger-26, what are we dealing with here? Is it going to be a fitting option that is in any way, shape or form competitive against the current LMG leaders like the PKM or the M91? Well, there is one thing here that makes it pretty unique in the category, and that is its 5.56 drum mag out of the gate. Sure, having a 100 round mag is not a rare thing in this game, some ARs can get it, and, well, the before mentioned LMGs start with a mag size that large. So what's so good about this 100 round magazine? Well, it's simple. It's not a belt mag, which means that the reload is not a 50-step IKEA assembly to get it done, which is incredibly convenient and means that you are going to be able to put more lead down range with smaller downtimes between those bursts of fire. I mean, we've all been there where we've had a PKM or an M91 and we've hit the R button at just the worst time when we've only fired off one bloody round and therefore we're committed to a 10-second friggin' reload. At least that's how long it feels like. I felt like when I was using this weapon, I had to be a lot less careful when, you know, hitting that reload button because it didn't require 16 passings of the moon to complete, and I was therefore able to hold my ground just a little bit more easily. I think that right there is what makes this thing a significant advantage over its competitors in one aspect. The fact that the downtime here doesn't require you to have an escape plan in the event that someone, you know, comes around the corner on you. Now, to counteract the weapon's forgivability, yeah, that's a word now, if you will, we have the damage values and just what exactly the weapon can dish out per round. Sure, you have a shorter reload time, but overall, you're going to need to fill your enemies with more holes in order to make them drop once and for all. As someone who came from using the PKM on their LMG loadout to something like this, there was honestly a lot left to be desired in regards to the damage, as I thought that surely because I'm using this big hunk of precision German engineering, there should be a little bit more oomph behind its shots. But yeah, there were times where I was sitting there just thinking, how the fuck did that bloke survive that? And just to reiterate here, the weapon does feel very sluggish to use. Don't let the quickest reload let you think that you're just using an AR here with a bigger magazine size, because the ADS speed here on this thing does not allow for you to use it like an AR. Out of the box, this is a weapon that you're going to be sitting on choke points with and defending key objectives. If you can get to a hard point or a domination point first, boom, you are going to be able to hold that angle just as well as you would with any other LMG. Just don't expect to be able to jump around corners and snap onto heads like you would while using something like an M4. Accuracy here is also something the weapon is pretty strong at. Being only a 5.56 round, the weapon's recoil is a lot more manageable out of the box and requires less attachments than some of its counterparts to bring it more into check and more into a more controllable state. Hell, after I got the compensator and an operator forward grip on it, I saw pretty much no recoil at all, and I was able to start competing with longer range targets with ease. Hell, even snipers were sort of achievable with this weapon, believe it or not. Overall, this thing is a pretty easy weapon to use and is probably at this point one of the better LMGs for players to pick up and start using as a way to learn the LMG playstyle a little bit before moving on to something like the PKM or the M91. The quick and easy reload magazine means that you aren't going to have to manage your reloads with a weekly schedule planner, and you are still given enough rounds to do what an LMG is great for: crowd control. I definitely still feel as though that if you can time your reloads nicely and control the recoil like a champ, then the PKM is still probably the strongest pick in the class right now, but as a turn your brain off kind of weapon, the Holger was a very fun weapon to use and a fun weapon to get to max rank, which is something that I've done in the game now. However, while the Holger-26 is a nice entry-level LMG, much like many of the other weapons in this game, it can be modded into something completely different. Meet the small boy Holger-26, a weapon which takes very much after the G36C and is basically the carbine version of the weapon. So with the build that you've got here, I've been able to turn this weapon into a full-blown AR, maybe even coming closer to I wish carbines were a thing in this game, but coming closer to a carbine with some pretty competitive aiming down sight speed for a slightly more intense CQC-orientated experience. Now, I will say that it takes literally all of the attachment slots going towards ADS speed to make this possible, and on top of that, I don't have a reflex sight on the weapon here at all, so overall sight clarity isn't the best. But in saying that, the weapon doesn't have the worst iron sights in the world, so that's a plus at least. Anyway, for this build, I've got the 30-round mags, the XRK Axis stock, the lightweight suppressor, the FTAC 8.89-inch Spitfire barrel, and the TAC laser, all providing some form of added ADS speed advantage to make this a fun little flanking rifle, and I've got to say, it works really, really well. If I'm playing on a slightly longer range map, I'll swap out the suppressor for an operator forward grip just to, you know, get that recoil slightly back under control for those longer range engagements, but that does depend on the situation that I'm in and doesn't really affect the weapon that greatly. I still found it quite competitive at reaching out and sort of scoring those headshots if needed. With that said though, this is still very much a novelty weapon. As effective as it is with this build, you still have to really put every single attachment towards changing it into something that it's not. And with that, you sort of get rid of the one key factor that makes the weapon unique and effective, the 100-round magazine. Now, I did try running the 100-round magazine, default magazine, on the gun while I was running this close quarters orientated build, and it worked, but it still did add a bit of chunkiness to the weapon that kind of counteracted the rest of the build. So, you know, you do have to kind of get rid of that one advantage that the weapon has over everything else in this class to turn it into this AR. And then when you compare it against the rest of the ARs in the game, like the M4, the Kilo, the AK, probably the three dominant assault rifles in the game right now, I'm not entirely sure if it holds up entirely. Like, you do still have to score those headshots to out DPS those weapons, I feel. And I just don't think it's the wisest way to use this weapon when you could be putting attachment slots to accuracy and really hunkering down with it, other than to try and turn it into something that it's not. Now, again, I know that sounds counterintuitive because, as I was saying, you can turn this thing into a really competitive assault rifle, but when you compare the final product to the other assault rifles that exist, the assault rifles that you can still mount a sight on and have decent competitive ADS speed, it just, you do have to dedicate a lot of resources of attachments to something like ADS speed on this gun to turn it into that competitive assault rifle. It still is a good time, but if you wanted to be extra competitive, you're still better off just taking an M4 or an AK or a Kilo and then letting this thing still sit as an LMG. But if you don't care too much about being overly competitive and you just want to have fun with, you know, MacGyvering weapons into situations that they shouldn't really be in, that is a fun build to play with, and I've definitely been really enjoying that sort of play style with the Holger-26 as of right now. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, a backhand of that like button would be greatly appreciated. That does bring today's video to a close. I'm going to be grinding very, very hard to try and get the Ram 7 as fast as I can to give you guys a video on that one, and I'm working very slowly but surely on a format for Call of Duty that means I can do some weapon reviews. I'm looking at seeing how I can test stats, so on and so forth, bring you guys one of the most informative weapon reviews that I actually can do here on the channel. If you guys enjoyed the content and you're new here, back in that subscribe button and consider joining all of our social media links in the description down below. Twitch, Twitter, and Discord are all linked down there for you guys to come join the community. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.